welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Heather, and I'm joined from Denver, Colorado, by my co-host and sister, Jenny. Say hello, dude.
Hello.
So today we're discussing Series 3, Episode 2, Healthy Competition. So grab a Ruby Murray and let's get started.
This episode aired on the BBC at 8:30 p.m. on Thursday, November 17th, 1983. Continuing to air after Wildlife on 1 and then followed by the 9 o'clock news. Uptown Girl by Billy Joel was enjoying its second week as the UK #1 song, as well as Never Say Never Again enjoying its second week as the UK #1 box office movie. Viewing figures crept up slightly from last week to 9.7 million. And we have a few little interesting episode facts here. Many will remember this episode as being the first appearance of the beloved character Mickey Pierce, played by Patrick Murray. After 2 whole series of mentions, we finally get to see him in the flesh. The opening sequence in the department store was filmed at Randall's store outside of London in Uxbridge. The street chase scenes were filmed all around the streets and back alleys of Ealing. The auction scenes were filmed at Tarrant Hinton Village Hall in Dorset, which was only 5 minutes away from Iwerne Minster, where the famous chandelier scenes were filmed. A bit risky for the Trotters to head down that way again. They might have gotten caught by the Ridgemeres. Finally, and this is pretty cool, the Radio Times did a big double-page spread on Only Fools and Horses in their early November 1983 edition, and the photographer took all of the photos for that shoot on scene at the auction house that day. So you would likely recognize a lot of those iconic shots taken during this photo shoot. I put here we'll try and use one as the thumbnail for this episode, but we might be saving it for the Series 3 summary. But if you had the VHS when you were a kid, that was do you remember that was the front cover?
Is that the Dell in like the red jumper and the checkered hat, and Rodney in the grey? Well, Rodney wears the grey suit a lot, but
yeah, and they're like leaning up all the industrial fences, so that's a very iconic photo shoot. The pictures are everywhere. I looked on eBay. I was going to buy a copy of the Radio Times so I could read it, but actually I was able to read the article on the person's listing, which it's quite interesting. Yeah, like the way that they basically interview each character, like they interview each actor about like how they feel about the show so far, and it's really cool to read it. It was a big promo that we were talking about in the Series 2 summary about how they got behind the show a little bit more. A big double-page spread, a second featurette in the Radio Times. That's pretty huge. So
the Radio Times was huge at the time.
Yeah, at the Radio Times. Yeah, it has actually become kind of part of people's lives, like using the Radio Times to plan what they were going to watch.
I remember those days.
Yeah, it's very iconic that they're actually in it, and that means that they're part of people's lineup now, which is really cool. So that's it for now. As usual, I'll scatter the rest of the trivia throughout the summary. So shall we move on to the episode ranking?
Yeah, let's do that. So if you are new here, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast. We release a new episode every Saturday. So each week we reveal and compare our rankings for the episode. So prior to recording the entire podcast, we independently ranked all 64 episodes. So I am really curious to hear what Jenny's ranking is for this episode out of 64. What have you ranked? Healthy Competition, dude.
Yeah, I make a prediction that yours is going to be higher than mine because I know this is one of the ones that's like my ashes to ashes. Like I know that you love this episode. But yeah, mine, it's reasonably high. My ranking is 33. Yeah. So
okay.
I'm guessing,
why did you rank it as 33?
I mean, that's quite up there for mine.
It's one of your higher ones so far. Yeah, that's true.
I remember you loving this when we were kids. It wasn't always my very favorite because the only thing I don't like about it is I don't like any episode where Rodney is sad, and I do feel like he's really sad and embarrassed in this episode. And Dell's kind of making fun of him, but he does redeem himself, obviously, towards the end. But I don't always love it when the Trotters aren't working together. Let's put it that way. But I think the episode's really fun and different and cool. And I love the fact that we're starting to bring in the side characters with Mickey Pierce. So yeah, I do think it's a very strong episode. And I think 33 is a pretty good number. It's halfway. So yeah, what is your ranking, dude?
I don't think you'd have been able to predict what mine is. So I have ranked this as my 5th top episode of 64.
It's in your top 10?
It's in my top 10.
Oh my god.
Number 5 out of 64. You are quite right. I love this episode. I always watched it on repeat when I was younger. I think the episode is, again, for me, I think it was just something about this episode, the rivalry between Del and Rodney in this episode. There's something really compelling about that for me.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Del is so clever in this episode.
Yeah.
And that Rodney is so naive. There's just some wonderful jokes. One of my most favorite jokes in the whole of Only Fools and Horses is in this episode. And yeah, I just think it's a wonderful episode. As you said, it's different. It's got a different vibe. We already mentioned last week that series 3 is getting stronger. But yeah, this episode for me is right up there. I really love this episode and I never get sick of watching it on repeat. So.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad you're doing the breakdown this week then.
I requested to do the breakdown this week because I love this episode.
I know, you shunted all of them. Yeah, so I was going to say that the IMDb ranking for this one is 26, so it's near to be mine. But yeah, it's obviously very highly regarded and by fans as well to make it that high up for being a half an hour and being an older one. People do remember this one. It's a great episode and we can't wait to get into it. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, it's got standout moments, the standout lines. So, okay, let's get into it. La, 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 la,
la, la, la. Okay, so we begin with this episode with Del selling in what looks like a shop doorway. So my first question is, how is Del allowed to stand there without the shop getting mad? But then I noticed this is a department store. So maybe they have other entrances. And that's maybe why he's not being asked to move. But we have Del selling these, I put robotic dog toys. If you got a better way to describe them.
No, they are like the little robot dogs, aren't they? I mean, they're like electronic dogs. We used to have one of these.
They're the flipper dogs, aren't they, these, rather than robot dogs? Because I always think robot dogs are the ones that you have like a wire and you make them like walk and stuff. These ones just flip. They just bark and flip, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, these toys are making a lot of noise, a lot of barking noise. And this is the first time I think we really get to see Del's market patter in full.
I happen to know that little Prince William has one of these little fluffy toys in his nursery in Buckhouse. Now, I'll tell you how I know, shall I? Because his dad gave me a bell last week and he said, Del boy, he said, I'm in right lumber. The enemy's doing her pieces because I've forgotten Spud's birthday.
So I think that's really interesting because at this point we've seen Del selling, I think only in the last episode really, like really selling, you know, giving the patter in the market with the oranges. But this is really sort of where Del's character goes in the future, what we see in this episode, that, you know, standing on a street corner, getting a huge crowd in. I don't think we really see that. Maybe a little bit with the tights in Ashes to Ashes, but this is, I think, the first time we really see that charm, you know, that the reason that we can believe Del is actually making his living this way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, we talked about last week in Homesick, it's starting off strong with market scenes. This is the second episode in series 3 and we've got fly pitching already, so twice now, so that's great.
So I love it when even just a little improvised moment, or you can imagine it's an improvised moment when Del says,
now they come complete with batteries, they're guaranteed fully house trained. Whoops, not that one, is it?
Yeah.
Just little moments like that. Again, it's just so, it's comedy gold and it's also really in keeping with the character. And then we see Rodney leaning against the wall of the department store looking very bored. He looks completely disinterested in what Del is doing. And of course, we find out that he is. Suddenly, we cut to a policeman walking through what I assume is the market because there's a huge crowd of people. And we get the Jaws theme over the top. Now, I'm going to pass it to Jenny here because I'm pretty sure she has something to say about this because this is not the music that is used in the DVD version of this episode, right?
No, right. So all I put in my notes was I did know that it said in all of the trivia I read that originally the Jaws theme was used and I had never heard this version. So was the version that we watched the actual Jaws theme? Because I'd never heard it with this music.
So. Yeah. This is definitely not. It's similar what they play, but I don't think it's not this exact music that we're listening to in what we believe is the original broadcast we're watching. So yeah.
That must be the actual music from Jaws then, in the one that we watched, because the one that I've always seen is like it says in the in the book that they use a similar sounding tune on the DVD release or the future episode airings.
Yes, similar, but not quite.
It's so similar that you can barely tell it's not Jaws. It's not exactly the kind of the same build-up as the Jaws music. But this airing that we just watched is the actual Jaws, I think. And I've never heard it before until I watched this.
No, and it suits so brilliantly because you really do sort of see the policeman's head almost as like a fin coming towards them through the market. There's a couple of great lines here. There's even one here that I think doesn't get a laugh when Del says,
"Now, I'm not going to mess about with coppers. Now, that's a Freudian slip."
I just think that's really clever because, again, younger me, I just want to check I'm understanding the line because he's basically saying he doesn't want you to give him coins. He wants notes, right? Yeah, and then he's also referring to policemen. When again, just really witty dialogue in this episode. And then we keep cutting back between the policeman sort of approaching and the Jaws music and Del selling. I do think it's interesting that the policeman is actually not anywhere sort of in sight until the very end, because we're led to believe that Rodney's sort of, flaking on his duties here. But actually you can't see the policeman until the very end anyway. So it's just that last bit that Rodney really should have seen him. But of course we have Del noticing the policeman behind Rodney, and we get this wonderful facial expression from David Jason where he gulps really hard and just looks terrified. Rodney still notices nothing, so he doesn't notice that Del stopped selling. He just doesn't care, I guess. And then Del says,
"Tell you what, I just remembered, me flight leaves in half an hour. See ya."
Which I just think is really funny because he didn't need to say anything. He could have just gone and ran off. But I love that he takes the time to make an excuse to all the people in the crowd. And he runs into the department store behind him. Police officer pushes past Rodney. Almost looks like he woke him up, actually. The way that Nick Lyndhurst plays that, it looks like he was dozing against the wall.
Yeah, it does.
And then Del runs through the department store having very funny interactions with all of the stuff around him. So the two that obviously are most noticeable, he runs through a tablecloth, which is really funny, and takes it with him. And then he smashes some crockery, and I put making funny Hugo noises.
Yeah. It's very, it's cartoonish, isn't it? The whole running
very
through,
cartoonish,
it's great.
Okay, please. It's just really, really funny. But yeah, David Jason's hilarious when he makes those noises, and even the way David Jason runs. I don't know, it's just something really funny about the way he runs. Everything's just hilarious. I also put the guy holding the crockery is very dramatic.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch that episode, look at his facial expression when the policeman runs past him.
Yeah.
He was really going for it that day. And then we have Del exiting through the loading bay of the store. So Del's gone through the back, and he almost gets away from the policeman when the policeman suddenly hears the dog toys barking as though they weren't barking a moment ago, and now they suddenly are, which is a bit of a continuity issue. I also said at this point Del must have been quite far away, because the policeman even stops and taps on the lorry window, and then suddenly out of nowhere he hears the barking, and I didn't think those toys would be that loud, but yeah. Then Del says to the dog toys,
"Shut up, will ya?"
And we see Del running through various alleyways, and then we've got these dogs, this pack of dogs comes out of nowhere and starts chasing him. Now I'll mention a little bit more about the dogs later, but yeah, that's quite funny. And then we have, as if by magic, Rodney screeching up in the van at the end of this alleyway. And I just put, how on earth did he know where to go?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's just a very choreographed scene. You're right. The fact that the policeman suddenly appears, even though it seems impossible, is just the way that chase scenes are done, isn't it? And then Rodney, knowing exactly which alley to pull up in. It's still hilarious, but very unbelievable.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I love that shot of the van and the screech it makes when it pulls up. It's just really funny. But I mean, there is one possibility, because Del actually does hesitate and go back down one of the alleyways at one point, that maybe they've agreed on an area to meet if things go wrong. I don't know, but that's the only thing I can think of as to, because that is a very exact location. He doesn't even see Del down the alley and sort of pull up looking down. He just stops right there. So yeah, that's very interesting. Then we have this hilarious moment where Del gets into the back of the van and he says, only to release the clasp on the suitcase and all the dog toys come spilling out into the streets, which is just, it's all that effort to get away and carrying that suitcase, and then it's all for nothing. Very reminiscent actually of the ending of A Touch of Glass, only this time Del's the one hanging out the back of the van.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it is similar.
yeah, but very, very funny. I love that. And they're driving away. And then we get this lovely close up of the dog toys, sort of almost making them look like they're talking to each other, sort of getting closer to each other on the road. And then we see the policeman run down the same alley as Del just did before he went in the van, only to be chased back out of the alley by the dogs that were chasing Del. Now, I just put about these dogs that some of these dogs look very well looked after, and I'm sure they were, so they don't look like stray dogs. So where did all these dogs come from is what I wrote.
Yeah, I don't know. There was nothing about any dogs or anything in any of the books, and I couldn't find anything about them. Obviously, they just got like a bunch of... It seems to me like anytime you bring animals onto a set, it's you adding a massive amount of stress. So they must have just got like a nice little dog training group or something to do this, because they're all different as well. Like, they're all like these different breeds. They're clearly not stray dogs, yeah. That whole thing with the running that after something and then it coming back and chasing you, it goes all the way to Time on Our Hands, doesn't it? And Rodney like goes after the guy and the guy chases Rodney back out of the alley.
That is kind of a bit of a rehash, of this sequence. You're right, except this time it's Rodney doing the running and Del going after him. But Del's got the suitcase, of course, still in Time on Our Hands. So
yeah,
whoopsie-daisy. So yeah.
I wonder if, we'll get all the way to Time on Our Hands, and I'm like thinking, did David Jason want to like do all that running with the suitcase? But yeah, running with the suitcase is a kind of a cool thing that David Jason he makes it look so funny, like the running away with the suitcase.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's something great about David Jason's body language when he runs. I don't know if it's because the suitcase he has is always so massive as well, so it just makes it really funny to watch. Do you have any more notes on that scene?
Not much. I had just one thing, and that was that obviously the Prince William thing is topical because Prince William was actually born on June 21st, 1982, which we mentioned before. I looked up to see if Spud was an actual nickname that people used, and AI was really funny answer. They were just like, Spud does not appear to have any connection with Prince William.
I think that's just what people call babies, like little Spud or something.
Yeah,
like
he looks
that,
like
right?
a potato.
It's like a slang term for babies. Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah. So that was all I had.
Okay, cool. So then we cut to Nelson Mandela. So we're in the flat. We have this hilarious sequence of Del coming in. He opens the door with force. He shuts the door, slams it, and he throws this huge, albeit empty, suitcase into the rooms, into the corridor where the rooms are. You know, clearly furious. And then Grandad says,
"Had a good day, Del."
So Del explains what happened to Grandad just as Rodney's walking in the flat. He says,
"I've been chased by a gendarme, attacked by Pussycat Willem, and almost caught rabies, and it's all this dipstick's fault."
Oh, we can half exaggerate.
Yeah, I mean, it is an exaggeration, but at the same time, you can imagine why Del would be so upset at this point. All he's just been through. And on top of everything else, he lost the stock as well that he was trying to sell.
Right.
So Rodney's cost them money on top of everything else. So Del is furious with Rodney, and Rodney claims he didn't see the policeman. Which leads to this excellent sarcastic line from Grandad where he says,
I mean, they are difficult to spot with their size 18 boots and their pointed heads.
Which again made me think of Jaws, the pointed heads reference, because I just think of like the policeman's head as like a shark fin going through the crowd coming towards
Yeah,
them.
and I'd never made that connection before, but maybe that's why he chose the Jaws theme, because the top of the policeman's hat looks like a shark's fin.
So Del points out another incident from the previous week where Rodney also claims he didn't see a police car, and we get this wonderful line here that I always thought of when I saw police cars, when Del says,
"You must have been a tiny bit suspicious when this ginormous great big jam sandwich pulled up next to you."
Because he also mentions the other reference to the toothpaste.
"With a red stripe running through it, like a tube of signal."
And I didn't know what that was either, but I looked it up, and that was toothpaste that had like a red stripe through the middle of it.
oh, thanks for that bit of context there. Rodney tells him that he has an important announcement. He's been thinking about something for a while. It's been on his mind. And Rodney says basically that he has got some qualifications, adult education. And what is he?
I'm a lookout.
No, Rodney, you're wrong. You're not just a lookout.
You're a bad lookout.
So, yeah, I could understand Rodney's frustration with this. And this is also the first time that we kind of get it declared that Rodney is not selling as part of the business, as part of the partnership. He is the lookout. This is the first time we get that officially stated, because it's kind of implied a little bit. Maybe sometimes we see Rodney doing sort of the dog's body stuff, like in the last episode, he was, Del made him clean up the stall and everything. Mm-hmm. But this is sort of Rodney's first time being given a job title, if you like. The long and short of the conversation is that he wants to leave the partnership. And Grandad and Del look at each other like they're really shocked by this announcement. And then Del says,
What partnership?
But Del is very dismissive of all of this idea. You know, he says, oh, you don't want to leave. You know, everything's fine. Why would you want to do that? And then Rodney says,
I'm going it alone.
Who with?
Mickey Pierce.
Mickey!
So I thought it was quite funny that Del already assumed when Rodney said he was going it alone that he wasn't actually going to be alone.
Yeah, because I guess you can't do it alone, right?
Well, I mean, Del can. I mean, this is the thing. I just thought it was really interesting, that Rodney didn't even hesitate. You know, he wasn't even like, oh, you just assume I'm not strong enough to go it alone. He was like, who with? Mickey Pierce, like straight away.
It is weird, yeah.
In. So, but we're going to meet Mickey Pierce soon, which is great. I love this line Grandad describes Mickey Pierce. Because I guess Grandad's met Mickey Pierce. We haven't yet.
He'd rob his own grandmother, he would.
Oh, don't be stupid, Grandad. That was never proved.
Everything we've heard about Mickey Pierce to this point is bad. I don't think we've ever heard anything good about him. So I don't really understand why Rodney wants to go into business. I mean, he says Mickey's a shrewd businessman, but what evidence he has of that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we certainly don't see that in this episode.
No, I mean, he's mentioned Mickey Pierce in Go West, Young Man, right? And then he mentions him in what other episode? Is it No Greater Love?
Oh, God, yeah, there is definitely another episode he's mentioned. Oh, he's on the phone. He says...
right, he says he's talking to Mickey.
He was talking to Mickey Pierce, yeah.
Oh, and he also mentions him in Christmas Crackers, because that's who he got the book off of.
That's right, yeah, so we've had a few mentions. So, but again, we've not heard anything good about Mickey Pierce at this point. And Del asks where Rodney's going to get the money to invest in sort of this partnership, because Rodney says that Mickey Pierce is putting money in. And then Rodney looks at Del and says,
I got my half of the partnership.
And the look that Rodney gives in that moment is, it's always stuck with me because he looks so guilty and sad. We just get this tiny shot of Nick Lyndhurst in that moment when he looks at Del. And I think one of the other reasons I love this episode so much is because I really do relate a lot to Rodney. Mm-hmm. And I think my independence and being independent is something that I've always wanted. Like, even when I was younger, I think I really wanted to sort of have my independence and always wanted to sort of, you know, show people that I could stand alone and I was strong and I could do things. And I'm still that way now. So I think that I really do relate a lot to what Rodney's trying to do, but I also understand sort of Rodney's feelings about letting down people, because I'm also a people pleaser, and you know, Rodney is clearly like that too, and he cares about other people. And yeah, I just think there's something really powerful about that look. It's always sort of stuck with me that he gives in that moment. And of course, we've got this long silence that goes with that look where sort of Del is taking it in. And he looks quite offended by what Rodney's just said as well, that he's asking for the money from the partnership. Yeah, I just wanted to highlight that look because I think it's wonderful. Great acting. And then we have Rodney and Del come straight back from that, both very defiant and stubborn. And Del reads in the right act about what going alone really means. It actually means you're on your own. And I don't think Rodney really understands this, because even later in the episode, you know, there's a few times when he's like, oh, I'm paying for that as well, am I?
Yeah.
So I don't think he really understands just how much Del sort of pays for and how much Del supports him. He does give Rodney some of the money, but Rodney's not happy with the amount. I feel like this is a moment we see where Del sort of, we see another time when Del sort of counts out 2 piles of money and then gives the smallest one to Rodney, or he does it in another episode with someone else. I'm sure we see that again. But,
yeah, that's one of his tricks, isn't it?
Yeah, so he makes a big point of it. Like, we see him really going through all the notes, like counting it out while he's lecturing Rodney, and then he goes, here you go then, and he gives him the smallest pile. So and Rodney obviously is very upset about that. Del mentions that, completely contradicting what he's just said earlier, that actually things aren't great, and he hasn't got any money, and he's just bought some stock off Alfie Flowers, which will become relevant later on. Rodney is once again determined to show Del that he can stand on his own 2 feet. We have seen this in earlier episodes. I think Big Brother's the first example. I mean, Rodney, you know, very defiantly sort of leaves home and comes back with his tail between his legs. There's multiple examples. Can you think of any more, dude?
I mean, yeah, he does it a lot, doesn't he?
Long Live the Law, he does it when he goes out and then he comes back and Del gives him money.
You mean immediately comes back? Yes.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, or any other time. I mean, there are later examples of Rodney leaving fully. And
yeah. I mean, it's just part of his character, isn't it? Because he's always getting angry at Del and trying to prove a point by storming off or saying, I'm washing my hands of this. And then immediately he's like, oh, I feel bad now. And he comes back. Because it shows that there's that like completely like strong bond that they can never really break between them. He could never abandon Del could never abandon Rodney, so it's like it's very well done in that regard.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then just the last note from me on this scene, Del immediately decides to show Rodney's immaturity or naivety, I'm not sure which one you want to say, when he says, I'll see you down the auction tomorrow, and Del says,
How will I recognise you?
and Rodney straight away comes back describing what he's going to wear, and it's just like already Rodney's trapped. He's just not on it like Del is. He doesn't have that quick wittedness. He's not shrewd.
Well, I know this is irrelevant, but Rodney says he's going to wear a stripy tie, and he doesn't wear a stripy tie. That does not. It's not relevant.
I didn't even notice that. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe he decided not to, just to
prove Del, so Del wouldn't recognize him. Yeah.
Yes, that must be it. I'll just wear the same suit I always wear, is what he should have said, because he hasn't got any other
I don't
suits.
even know if he has a stripy tie. Have we ever seen? Although, does he wear a stripy tie and go West Man? I don't know. Okay, never mind. We can't.
The only one I can think he wears a stripy tie is Watching the Girls Go By, when he's dressed like a negative.
Oh, so. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But do you have any more notes on that scene?
Nothing huge. I just had two notes. One was gendarme is actually the correct use French, because it means policeman in French-speaking countries. And I know Del does actually say gendarme in other episodes. Like he definitely says it in the future, because I remember him saying it. And then I don't remember what line this is from, but I wrote here, Pussycat Willem was a glove puppet that would make an appearance occasionally on a children's show called Small Time. They talk about Pussycat Willem in the scene, but I can't think of the line right now.
Attacked by Pussycat Willem!
Del actually makes a lot of references to children's TV shows, so it would kind of make you think he watches a lot of kids' TV.
Well, it must be Grandad watching it, because Grandad's the one in charge of the TVs, and then Del just watches with him. So.
Yeah, maybe.
Children's TV is great. Used to be, not anymore, but it used to be. Okay, so now we're going to go to the auction house. We see that the auction is already in progress, and the first lot that's mentioned, or the first lot that we see being sold, are these smoke damage fire alarms. And even this joke is funny. When he says,
well, we've written evidence from the night watchman to say they all went off when the factory went up.
So again, I think it's hilarious that this is the sort of stuff that, Del and Rodney are buying all the time, is these really ridiculous things.
Yeah, is this
auction.
Is this the first auction that we've seen in the show?
First actual auction, yeah, because I don't even think we ever really see another auction apart from when Miranda's selling the painting or Time in Our Hands. I don't think we do see any more actual auctions. We see them coming out of the auctions a few times. So in A Touch of Glass, we saw them leaving the auction. But I think this is the first time we actually see an auction in progress, yes. So we see Mickey Pierce. We meet Mickey Pierce for the first time. And he's wearing the same hat that he wears throughout the entire series, which I love, that he kept that the entire time. Mickey, I said, immediately comes across as an overexcited child when he says,
Go on, bid for him.
And Rodney's the one who shoots him down and shows some maturity and reason. The first line we have of Mickey Pierce is this overexcited, childlike nature. And then Del comes over, already trolling them. He's got his troll face on. And we can see that Del is not taking Rodney seriously at all. And Rodney is still very bitter, probably about all the stuff that was said the day before. And Del winds up Mickey by saying,
You've got to be very careful what you do with your hands in a place like this. I mean, I know you didn't realise it, Mickey, but just now you put in a 40 quid bid for an electric generator when you scratched your bum.
And then Mickey stupidly believes him, which is just, again, Mickey Pierce. We only see him for this one scene, but I feel like we get so much about him. So yeah, obviously Del was making fun of Mickey, and Rodney realises it, but Mickey didn't. And Del, I think, susses out here that he can get some information from Mickey that Rodney wouldn't give him. So he asks Mickey what they're after at the auction, and Mickey starts to tell him about the cut glass goblets, and Rodney jumps in immediately saying,
No, we ain't. But I thought you said no.
Went after nothing in particular.
And Del is clearly way ahead of them here because he decides to warn them about Lot 37. So he obviously knew that this reverse psychology would work on Rodney. So he tells them that Lot 37's a load of old rubbish, don't bid on it. Rodney and Mickey, of course, suddenly become very interested in Lot 37 and they decide they're going to bid for it. Now, I do have a question here. Wouldn't they have seen Del bidding for the goblets?
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes, yeah.
Oh, you wrote in your... Yeah, because so basically, obviously, we don't find out till the next scene that Del's bought the goblets, but we get to the goblets first, which is lot, I want to say 35 or 36, something like that. It's obviously before lot 37 because they haven't bid on the lot 37 yet. The glass goblets were being actively bid on while Mickey and Rodney were having this conversation about if they should buy lot 37 or not. And Rodney's talking about Del and he's looking at Del when he's saying,
Del's after lot 37, isn't he?
You can see that that's where his eyes are going. So yeah, wouldn't they have seen Del being like, I bid for the glass goblets?
Well, yeah. So there's two things that wouldn't make sense. I mean, I'm not going to pull it apart too much, but they say that they aren't interested in the goblets, but they're all going to be in the same auction, so there's no point lying. I mean, there is actually a tactic in auctions to act like you're not interested till the last minute, let everybody else kind of bid to the price that they're going to go up to, and then if you're happy you can wait and only throw in your bid at the last minute to throw everybody off. There's not actually any way that Rodney could have secretly bought the goblets without Del knowing, but then there's also no way in the next scene that Mickey and Rodney wouldn't know that Del got the goblets unless they walked away to prove that they weren't interested in the goblets, because they changed their mind, didn't they? They were not going to go for the goblets now. So maybe they left the auction house, but it isn't really believable. But it's hilarious.
That bit. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's just something that, a little continuity thing there. At the end of the scene, we get this great transition, which I always quote. Jenny and I always quote this. So we get the optimism and enthusiasm from Rodney and Mickey when they say,
Should we go for lot 37 then? Yeah.
We switch on the second to this pile of junk on the floor outside the auction house, which shows what they actually bought with all their enthusiasm. So I just think that transition is masterfully done. It's so funny when you've got this. I don't know why they decided to do that and have the dialogue overlap into the next scene. Maybe, I don't know if you do, dude?
I don't know, but it seems like a Ray Butt edit to me, like a really funny, Ray Butt cleverly put together shot where their enthusiasm immediately cuts to the punchline, which is the junk pile. Yeah, and as we know, whenever they do location scenes, they edit it so the audience sees it that way. So that's how the audience saw it, and you hear them laugh when they see the big pile of lawnmower engines. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. I just think that's brilliant. And so we've got Mickey and Rodney are a bit upset about their purchase. They're standing over it, looking pretty miserable. And Del walks past, laughing at them. We do have the guy, I guess, who runs the auction also laughing with Del. Rodney says to Del,
This stuff is a load of rubbish.
Del delights in the fact that he tricked Rodney, and he puts the blame onto Rodney by saying,
The trouble with you is, Rodney, that you will insist on thinking.
But he knew he would, didn't he?
He knew he would, yeah. So Del knows his brother. And ironically, Rodney doesn't seem to know Del that well because I think he doesn't give Del his credit for being as clever as Del actually is.
It's a double bluff, yeah.
Del is actually very smart about these sorts of cons. I think Rodney needs to remember that a bit more. We find out here that Del got the goblets. So the cut glass goblets were bought by Del. Mickey asks what they have bought, and Del says,
They are lawnmower engines.
Lawnmower engines?
Yes. Listen, they're not ordinary lawnmower engines.
No?
They're broken lawnmower.
And again, just the delivery by David Jason is so funny there. The way that he says that. And Rodney approaches Del, telling him that he and Mickey don't have any transport, and he wonders if he can put some of the lawnmowers in the back of Del's van to take them away.
Back of my van? You must be joking. I've only just cleared them out of the van.
So we find out at this point that what Del mentioned earlier, the stock he bought from Alfie Flowers, was actually these broken lawnmower engines. And obviously Rodney is even more upset at this point. So Del's not only tricked him into buying this rubbish, but he's also tricked him into buying this rubbish from Del.
Yeah. Aw.
Which again, I honestly, I think I'd feel more sorry for Rodney here if he hadn't made such stupid decisions. And also the way that Nick Lyndhurst plays it in this scene is not like that look I mentioned earlier where you really feel for him. It's done in a childish kind of annoyed way, which makes it too funny for me to feel sorry for him. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Rodney says,
Well, what are we supposed to do with them?
Well, why don't you do what I did? Find yourself a couple of right little plonkers with cash on the hip.
and there we get a really childish moment where Rodney mouths, I believe it's piss off.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's so childish and grumpy the way that Nick Lyndhurst plays this. And Del obviously delighting in it. His laugh is so funny and his smugness is so funny. I can't feel sorry for Rodney. I just find it really funny. Rodney and Mickey Pierce are left alone and they are considering what to do with the engines. They think about leaving them, you know, and running away. And Rodney says,
No, we can't do that. He's got my address.
Yeah, well, he ain't got mine.
Oh, thanks, partner.
So here again, we see the dynamic between Rodney and Mickey Pierce brought to life here. Mickey Pierce is clearly a douche. I mean, I can't for the life of me understand what possessed Rodney to get involved with him and start a business with him. I just don't see it. I mean, where's this shrewd businessman that Rodney mentioned in the first scene that Mickey Pierce is? Because I don't see it at all. Everything that Mickey Pierce has done in these two scenes that he's in has been childish, naive, stupid, and selfish. There's no other way to describe it.
I mean, yeah. Is it natural, like, obviously, for Rodney to look up to people who aren't necessarily got his best interests at heart? He's always been kind of a child without too much guidance. The only, like, person he's had to look up to is Del, and he's always fighting with Del. So it's natural that he's looking for another person to lead him and guide him. And calling Mickey a shrewd businessman is interesting because, yeah, he only just means he's a schemer the same way that he means Del is. Like, he's clever, but Rodney doesn't approve of scheming.
But I don't even see him as clever, though, from there. I mean, like, let's just run away. Like, of course, this stuff is not clever. Not like Del's clever, so...
But you can see them hanging out down the pub together and, like, Mickey telling Rodney his schemes and Rodney getting all involved after a couple of pints. Like, you can see that happening.
Well, I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but I can't... Even when we see Mickey Pierce sort of in the next couple of series, he's always horrible to Rodney. I just don't understand why they're friends. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, you know?
Well, let me just do this little bit of trivia on Patrick Murray then, because one of the last parts that he said about the character of Mickey might be relevant here. So Patrick Murray was actually picked out by Ray Butt from being in a TV advert for Pizza Hut.
Oh, really?
And I guess he was playing a character that's kind of like Mickey. He's like failing to chat up a couple of girls. I couldn't find the advert. I tried. If anyone has a way for me to watch it, I would love to watch it.
Yeah, I would too.
But it says here that the TV advert was actually pulled because the acting was so like funny to the audience that people were ignoring the fact that it was about pizza and only focusing on the character. But luckily, Ray Butt saw it in time and he picked out Patrick Murray from this commercial. Patrick Murray had never seen Only Fools and Horses, but it sounds like the casting happened really fast. So he got offered the job on a Monday, and by Wednesday, he was down in Bournemouth filming the auction scenes. And it says here that he struck up an immediate rapport with Nick Lyndhurst. So, because they were both kind of young kids.
Oh, like, yeah. They look like a double act. Yeah, they absolutely look the part of each other. I mean, obviously, no comment at all on his acting. His acting is fabulous. And yeah, he absolutely is Mickey Pierce. But from the character's perspective of Rodney, I can't for the life of me understand why you'd keep someone like this as a friend.
Yeah, so Patrick Murray said of the character of Mickey that he kind of seems like the sort of younger brother that might have been more suited to being Del's brother, because he would have taken like a lot more of that stuff and been kind of the business partner. He probably would have tried to dress up a little bit more suavely and be more like Del than Rodney did.
He also wouldn't have minded breaking the rules as much as Rodney
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have the ethics that Rodney has. So, but in the same way as Del, Mickey is a schemer, but the schemes always fall apart. So Mickey is more of another Del, and there's no way that. So again, what I was saying about Rodney being drawn to another strong, confident character like Mickey, it's natural for Rodney to look for a replacement for Del. There's no way he was going to be confident enough to just go out on his own, right? So
that's what I mean. I think again, Del knowing straight away that he wasn't going to be alone when he said he was is already an indication of the sort of guy that Rodney is. He does need that person to support him, and he wants to be independent desperately, but he needs that safety net, which I can definitely, again, absolutely relate to, because I was the same way when I was younger. I desperately wanted my independence, but I needed to know there was someone who had my back if I did mess up.
Of course.
And yeah, I think even now I really appreciate my friends in my life for that reason. But of course, I'm not friends with anyone like Mickey Pierce.
No. The only other note on this scene, because I assume you probably want to move on now. Harry, the foreman guy, the one that comes over, he was played by actor Rex Robinson, and he actually appears in another episode in series 5. Do you know what it is?
Oh, I do recognize him. Oh my God. He's not...
It's another episode with Mickey, and he actually says Mickey, one of his lines.
Oh, he's the Reverend in Video Nasty.
That's right.
Yes, he is. There we go. Yeah, I knew I'd get it.
Would you have got it without my clue, is the question.
Probably not.
We'll never know.
For a second, when you said series 5, I was like, is that the guy who rents the boat out to them into Hull and back? And I was like, oh no, that's not series 5. That's the end of series 4. So yeah, I just wanted to say, to end that scene, Del is a bit mean to Rodney here, but I can understand the point he's trying to make. He's trying to help Rodney understand that he does need Del, basically. That's what all this is about.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we go back to the flat, and Del comes in with some strawberries. He gives them to Grandad as a treat, and Grandad says,
Yeah, they ain't very big, are they?
What do you mean they ain't very big? You wouldn't like one of those up your nose for a walk, would you?
which again I think is just those little lines that I feel like we get more of them now than we used to. Those little moments of comedy that have nothing to do with the storyline or the plot. I think that's little comments like that, just that interaction between Del and Grandad. I love these little moments, and this episode's full of them. And then we find out that Del has had a great week and he's been raking in the money. Obviously Rodney's not here at this point, so this is just between Del and Grandad. And we see, for the first time, I think, we see him give Grandad the housekeeping money. So we've spoken a little bit before about how the finances of the flat work and sort of Del paying for everything and what goes on. So here we actually see him give Grandad the money to get the food in, presumably here. He also gives Grandad 10 quid as a little bonus. And Grandad says,
No, I'll invest it wisely.
While marking down a bet in the paper. I think even when I was a kid, I understood what Grandad was doing there. So making a bet with the money. And then Grandad and Del discuss how badly that Rodney is doing. And we find out that Rodney hasn't sold the lawnmower engines yet. I'm not sure how much time is supposed to have passed here, because in the last scene, Rodney says he hasn't had a pint all week. Yeah. So has it only been 1 week? And Del says he's had a blinding week.
I think it's supposed to have been about a week, because he mentions days of the week. About one day the lawnmower engines were stolen and then the next they were put back.
That's
so
right.
A couple of days at least, but probably a week.
I mean, that's so funny that all this really is only supposed to take place in a week. I mean, Rodney completely gave up within a week of being on his own. But of course, we find out later some of the reasons why that might be. So we get a very funny story here, which you just mentioned about the lawnmowers. And Del says,
Do you know what happened? Last Tuesday night, somebody broke into their shed and nicked 2 of them engines.
Oh, no, that's rotten, isn't it? I feel sorry for young Rodney.
No. It's all right, because Wednesday night they broke in again and put them back.
Yeah, it's nice to see Grandad giving sympathy and worrying about Rodney.
Oh, yeah, I said Grandad is definitely feeling sorry for Rodney at this point, because when we hear the door go and Rodney's coming in, Grandad asks Del not to mention the lawnmower engines and said that Rodney's starting to feel a bit embarrassed, which, yeah, you can see Grandad is absolutely... the caring grandpa. He always takes this role, and it's lovely to see that. Rodney comes in looking defeated, I said, sort of dragging his feet a bit. I think the other reason I start to not feel sorry for Rodney is because of all the bluster and the bullshit. It's like, oh, just tell him that you're struggling, and you want the help, and he just can't do it. So I say Rodney continues to bullshit.
Oh, fine. Could not be better.
His soul is half hanging off his shoe, which he quickly hides. I thought that's such a wonderful way to show that Rodney is not doing well. He's still got the suit, everything's fine, but they chose to sort of make his shoe break, which is it's an interesting choice, but it really works for this episode. And later on, of course, for another joke. And then Del immediately does what Grandad asked him not to do when he says,
Sold those lawnmower engines yet?
And Grandad gives Del a sort of, oh, shut up look, which again we see a few times Grandad doing that. And Rodney pretends he can't even remember about the lawnmower
Yeah.
engines.
As if he
Again,
has
it's
so
just
much inventory, that
so
he
much
can't remember. Yeah.
so many things going on. He doesn't even remember. And he says,
We've had lots of inquiries, obviously, but we're hanging on for the right price.
and Del goes along with it. It's almost like a game of cards or a game of chess. Oh, sorry, not cards, chess between these two, because they both know they're full of shit. Like Del's sort of making out, oh, really? Like he believes Rodney when he clearly doesn't. And Rodney's bullshitting and saying everything's fine when he's clearly not telling the truth. So it's really interesting that they decided to both go along with that. It's sort of seeing who will crack first. Rodney picks up 2 strawberries and looks at them and then asks.
Oh, that reminds me. Did the paper boy bring my son this morning?
So clearly strawberries remind Rodney of breasts. Not sure why. But I'm not sure what else they could have had him pick up, really, to remind him of that.
I don't know, but that moment is that's not in the script. I looked.
That must have been something on the spot that they decided to do then, because of the way
Yeah.
Nick Lyndhurst was holding the strawberries, maybe. I
Maybe.
mean, it's a good joke. It's a good joke. So Del and Grandad tell Rodney that they've had to cancel his paper because he hasn't paid his bill. And this is where Rodney is quite upset, and Del reminds him.
Yeah, well, you're on your own now, remember?
Grandad goes to make Rodney some egg and chips at Rodney's request after lying about having a hefty lunch with a client. And Del stops him because he knows Rodney hasn't paid the housekeeping money. And Rodney says,
Well, I've got a bit of a cash flow problem at the moment.
and Del basically tells him that he can't have anything until he's paid the money. So this is quite harsh. But again, I understand why Del's doing it. He's making a point. Grandad questions Rodney's cash flow problem, saying,
Can you have a cash flow problem, Rodney? I thought you had nearly £200 left out of your share.
Yeah, that's right. But Mickey's holding the money.
and we see Del and Grandad give each other a look that Rodney feels the need to justify a little bit more about what Mickey's doing. And we find out that Mickey is out of town. And Rodney clearly doesn't know where Mickey Pierce is. I mean, you can see that from the body language, from the tone of voice and everything. And then Rodney suddenly goes back to the bullshit. This happens a few times in this scene where he kind of drops the pretense for a moment and then he goes, oh shit, and then goes back to, but everything's fine, it's all good. Rodney says that Mickey's doing a big deal at the moment and that's why he's gone away. And Del is, of course, as always through this episode, a step ahead of him because Del already knows that Mickey Pierce is in Benidorm because he bumped into Mickey Pierce's mum. So he tells Rodney this news, and Rodney clearly did not know that Mickey Pierce was in Benidorm because of the facial expressions that he pulls. Again, he feels that he needs to keep up the pretense, and he says, oh yeah, I knew that's where I was going. And Del asks what Mickey's doing in Spain, and Rodney thinks fast, if you can call it that, saying that they're going into the self-catering holiday trade, but they're starting in a small way. And this is, I think a lot of people probably love this line as much as I do, but this is probably one of my favourite lines in the whole of Only Fools and Horses, where Grandad says,
Well, you got a Wendy house?
there is no time I have watched this episode, no matter how many times I watch it, that line doesn't make me laugh out loud. And I think it's just the delivery of the line itself, and also the fact that David Jason and Leonard Pierce get to laugh at that line so hysterically, because a lot of the time, when they tell a joke, the actors don't get to laugh, but in this instance they get to really crack up. And I've got to say, props to Nicholas Lyndhurst for not laughing, because I would have been roaring laughter if I'd have been him.
Well, yeah,
Amazing.
like, do you know about how like legendary that line is? Like, you know, the facts about it? I'm not sure if you do, but like
I don't.
Yeah, so that line is, they called every line after this episode, if it was got a massive laugh or if it was expected to get a massive laugh, they called the line a Wendy. So it was actually legendary. Yeah, so first of all, it was filmed live. So Nicholas Lyndhurst keeping a straight face and doing that like reaction that he does is amazing because it brought the house down. And David Jason and Nick Lyndhurst commented afterwards that like they've been trying their whole careers to get laughs as high as that. And Leonard Pierce just sails in, says one little thing and everyone... but yeah, the way that they laugh at it is obviously very genuine. But yeah, even as far forward as I remember seeing an interview with Tessa Peake Jones, who said she didn't understand what they meant, but everybody on the set would call lines Wendy's, and she didn't know what that meant. She found out later. So yeah, obviously a very legendary line.
Oh, it's brilliant. I mean, we had a Wendy house. Do you remember one of our holidays that we went on? One of the caravan holidays we went on, and the campsite had a Wendy house. So obviously I knew what a Wendy house was, even as a kid, the first time I watched this episode. And yeah, it's just absolutely brilliant, like picturing that they've bought this little Wendy house. They're going to try and rent it out. It's so ridiculous, but it's so funny. Yeah, I absolutely adore that line. Rodney, though, is so defeated by this point, and maybe that's the reason that Nick Lyndhurst was able to keep his character, because he's so into this, like, you know, defeated, kind of beaten down Rodney at this point in the scene that he didn't even find it funny. And Del says that he's going to go out for a drink and a curry, and Rodney lets the truth slip a little bit here when Del asks him to come, and he says,
I'm potless, aren't I?
And Del leans right in to look at Rodney and says, "What?" And sort of just checking to see if he's going to spill and he's going to break. And Rodney straight back to the bullshit again, saying he's got to stay in and do the company accounts, I suppose. And Grandad says,
here they are. Little piece of paper.
He passes over this very sorry looking couple of papers with like a pin through them or something. Rodney, again, here looks like a moody teenager. I said all the way through this, it's moody teenager Rodney.
Yeah.
And Del walks behind Rodney towards Grandad and points at him and gives a little laugh towards Grandad, showing the audience that he's taking the piss out of Rodney. Then Del says,
You don't really think I'm that hard, do you, Rodney?
Implying that Rodney can now come out and have a curry with him, and Rodney gets up all happy, ready to go. And then Del leans in and says,
Grandad, do him them egg and chips, will you?
This whole scene is fantastic, in my opinion. Just a wonderful, entertaining, great lines, everything. Any notes on that scene?
Just a couple of things. So yeah, like Rodney's company accounts is funny because he does always do that. Like even when he was working for Del, he's always trying to keep actual paperwork and notes and receipts, which we know ends up coming back and saving the Trotters at the very end.
True. Yeah.
So they need both Trotters to be successful. Del's David Jason does the facial expression for Del when he finds out that Mickey's holding the money. You can see definitely a hint of protective side Del coming out. He's angry because he's like, oh yeah, that little shitbag, like he's took the money and gone. Even though he knew that already.
He knew that already, I was going to say.
But then he does look as if like he's like, okay, this is a moment where I'm the brother and I'm going to protect Rodney. But he obviously keeps the pretense going. He doesn't show that right away.
Well, he has to, doesn't he? He has to let Rodney get, what is it, just enough rope to hang yourself.
Yeah,
that's the saying,
exactly.
I believe.
But if we go all the way back to the beginning of the scene, Del walks in all affluent with the strawberries and the Financial Times. We actually see that Del is doing well and he doesn't have Rodney. But so like what exactly are we seeing here? Why doesn't Del just go off and do well on his own? So then as an audience, we know he needs Rodney on an emotional level. It's not actually because he needs a bad lookout. He actually needs like Rodney to be around and just part of his life. So
absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, that's the case sort of throughout the series. I think even when like Rodney leaves home, I know Del like makes a lot of sort of jokes about it and everything, but you can see, I mean, obviously we'll get to it in the episode Little Problems, but the scene where Del sort of finally realizes that Rodney's left when he's listening to the Simply Red song, which I won't play because we got done for copyright last time. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the most emotional moments in the whole of Only Fools and Horses, and it is, as you say, it's strange because Del talks on a number of occasions about how he'd do better if he'd put Rodney in care, or if he'd gotten rid of Rodney, he'd be this, he'd be that. But even with that sort of, maybe those feelings, sometimes he still wants Rodney in his life, and he doesn't just want him in his life, he wants him as a constant sort of a constant presence in his life. He doesn't want him gone even for like a little bit, you know?
Yeah, because even all the way back in Rock and Chips, Del's schemes and working by himself or with his friends back then, like Jumbo, he's always he does well. Like he makes money. He doesn't need Rodney to make money. He just needs Rodney to give him an emotional stability. Yeah, that's all it is.
And family, I mean, he, you know, Rodney's his brother, and even though we find out later he's his half brother, but he's still it's all he's ever known. And you know, same for Rodney. He's got this, you know, he insults Del, and the second someone else jumps in and does it, he gets very protective. So yeah, it's lovely. It's a lovely relationship they have. That's why we watch them all these years, and we still love the show as much as we do. Any more notes on that scene?
No, that's all I have. Yeah, we can move on to the Star of Bengal.
Yes, off to the Star of Bengal. So I would say this is sort of where the episode starts to wind down a little bit from its highlights. I said that last scene for me is the peak of like comedy, Only Fools and Horses writing. I just love that whole scene. But then we have Del eating alone in the Star of Bengal, and he finds out that young Towser is in. Now, I don't think we ever see young Towser again. We don't hear about young Towser again, do we, after this?
I don't remember if he's ever mentioned again. Yeah, honestly.
No,
I can't
so.
think of a natural mentioning of him, but yeah, this is the one and only episode.
Do you have any idea on the origins of the name young Towser? Because he isn't young, is he?
Well, it would indicate that he's the younger of two Towsers or more Towsers. Right. Yeah, because like he would be
because I was wondering why he was called young Towser when the actor came over and he's the same age as Del.
Well, I noted that he looks so much like Del. If you look at the costume and everything and all the different features of this guy, he's like a Del, another Del.
Yeah, true.
So he's obviously supposed to be part of the same circle. He's got the hat, he's got the jewelry, he's got the same sort of sweater and everything. Yeah, he's like a Del twin.
So he calls Towser over to the table, offers him a drink, and he convinces Towser to offer Rodney 200 quid for the lawnmower engines. So I said it's a really nice thing for Del to do here for Rodney. It's like he understands that this is the way it has to kind of end. And there's this lovely line here that Del says why he's doing it, and he says,
"But I want him to think that he's been successful. I want him to believe that he's proved me wrong. It's important, Towser."
Which I just think it sums up Del's entire sort of attitude towards Rodney. Even though we've seen the entire episode Del taking the mickey, he does know that this has to end in this way, that Rodney feels that he's had a success and he's willing to take a bullet, if you like, for himself and his own pride in order to let Rodney win. Even though, of course, it's Del pulling the strings behind. But, you know, he wants that win for Rodney. And I think that's lovely.
Yeah.
Del keeps stopping Towser from drinking.
Yeah, every time Towser drinks, yeah.
Yeah, and finally, Del actually downs Towser's drink when he goes to leave as well. So Towser doesn't get any of his drink, even though Del offered it to him. I also put there's quite a lot of food still left on the table when Del goes to leave. I don't know if Del was rushing out there because he gave Towser some money and he wanted to do what he does in the scene, where he gives him the 20 quid and then he says,
"I wouldn't pay that bill if I were you."
And he takes the money off Towser and puts it to pay the bill. And I just wondered, why would Towser still do it? If Del took the money he was paying for him to do it. I don't know.
But you find that out, don't you? Because he does still do it, but he takes a cut. Yeah. So
he takes even more. Yeah, he takes 35 quid instead of 20. So.
I don't know why Del didn't see that coming. I mean, it's obvious that Towser's a very similar character and he's not going to do it just for free. I also put a note here that is that thing where Del keeps putting his hand and stopping Towser from drinking. It's in another episode, but I can't think what it is. I think they use that in something else, but I'll have to like circle back and remember.
The only thing I can think of is an episode of Sooty, which I believe is Tap Time, where Connie keeps going to drink and Matthew keeps stopping her.
Right, that might be what I'm thinking of. So like it might have been like a common kind of joke in that time, like maybe a few other shows did it. Because it's very clever, because it requires a lot of misdirection and not looking, but like just moving your hand at the right time. Because you can see that Towser like looks at Del and he's like, right, I'm going to drink now. And he tries to drink really quickly. And then just as he does it, Del turns around and goes, don't let him know that you're.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a comedy timing thing, right? Which again, Fools and Horses always does perfectly. But yeah, because when people do that joke, as you say, they lift up and they sort of like take a big breath, like they're about to drink and they're really excited about it. Obviously, when you drink in real life, you don't drink like that. So I think it's definitely an episode of Sooty, for those of you that are Sooty fans, called Tap Time, I believe, that episode.
That's probably what I'm thinking of then. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then the only other note I had, which is something that we did mention in Diamonds of Heather, which is the Dev Sagu plays the same waiter in the curry house. So we're assuming that's the same curry house that he proposed to Heather in.
We'll move on to our last scene of the episode. So we're back in the Nag's Head, and Rodney's sitting at a table looking miserable, doesn't have a drink.
We're not back. We haven't been in the Nag's Head.
Oh, God, we haven't. Sorry. We are. When I say back in the Nag's Head, I mean...
in general.
I knew that. I mean, I knew. I was just saying we're back in the Nag's Head. Sorry, I'm doing Adele. So yeah, we're going to the Nag's Head. There we go. And Rodney's sitting there miserable. Del has got a drink and he once again teases Rodney. He comes towards him with his drink as though he's going to give it to Rodney. And then he takes it away at the last moment and has a drink, a big sip, and does a... sound. Yeah. Del is carrying a stack of money, and I put not very safe. I wouldn't have thought. He's got a proper wad of cash on him, openly holding it in the pub. And we find out later from He Ain't Heavy, He's My Uncle, that is a bad idea. Snowball for Dora.
Yeah.
He stands up and starts counting the money.
Large snowball.
Large snowball for Dora. Sorry, my bad. And then the skinheads look at him, but maybe there's no skinheads in the pub on this particular day. Del goads Rodney again about the lawnmower engines, but obviously we know he's doing it for a reason here. He wants Rodney to tell him about what happened. And Rodney's very smug when he says,
For your information, Derek, this morning I successfully negotiated the sale of them engines to young Towser.
Del acts surprised, but of course he is just humouring Rodney because this was all Del's idea. And Rodney's finally honest about Mickey Pierce here, and he says they're no longer partners. We don't really know exactly what transpired, but we can surmise from the earlier scene that Rodney has decided to completely cut Mickey Pierce out of his life now. But again, that doesn't last very long because he's back in it again in a later episode. Del tricks Rodney into thinking that it's his idea to be partners again. They're actually both thinking the same thing, but he makes Rodney be the one to say it, if you like. It looks like it might backfire on Del when Rodney says,
And now I've got experience in buying and selling myself.
Yeah, that could be invaluable, Rodders.
I feel like this is a similar conversation when they're talking about I think it's in Modern Men, is it? When they're going, buy, buy, buy.
Yeah, it's
sell,
very
sell,
similar.
sell. So yeah, it just shows pretty much the entire time the entire run of Only Fools and Horses. Rodney never learned how to sell. Not really.
Oh yeah, and isn't Modern Men a little bit like a callback to this episode because Rodney wants to leave and then he ends up coming full circle and then he stays. Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets trolled by Del in the phone call.
It's very similar. It's a similar kind of premise. Yeah.
Similar premise, yeah, that part of the episode, definitely. And so Del decides that they should pull all their money back together. And he asks how much Rodney got for the lawnmower engines. And he says,
£165.
And we find out in that moment, of course, that Towser has ripped Del off for £35. So 15 quid more than he was due to have. I don't blame Towser, though, to be honest.
No, because he took the money. Yeah, he didn't give him any payment for what he did. So, yeah.
Exactly. I wonder in this situation, obviously we never find out, but I wonder what Del will do to young Towser when he sees him because he's found out about this. I can't imagine Del letting something like this go, but it's actually something that Del would do. So I
was going to say, I think they just do these kinds of little things to each other. It's like the Boise and Del relationship. It's a friendship, but they also rip each other off and they get their own back and stuff. I don't think it's like a serious thing. Yeah, he's not going to beat him up.
I mean, a true friend wouldn't have to pay you 20 quid to do this for you. You just do it
because
you're friends.
So it's just kind of part of the nature of the business that they're in. Yeah.
But of course, then we have the reveal where Rodney says,
I went down to Alfie Flower's yard, got us another load of lawnmower engines.
And this gets a huge laugh. Now, in my opinion, that's where the episode should have ended.
Yeah.
I think that would have been a great ending. That line, Del's face and the credits kick in. I think that would have been great because that gets such a huge laugh and it's a great reveal. It sort of brings everything back full circle, shows that Del's scheme backfired on him. But it's not where the episode ends. So we get a little bit more dialogue. So Rodney asks Del for help and he explains all the hardships he's gone through over the past week. He says,
I ain't had a pint all week. All I've had to eat is Grandad's cooking and look, the soul's coming off my best Gucci. Look.
Yeah, I'll help you out, Rodders. Put that round your Gucci, it'll stop the soul coming off.
And that's the last line we get, which is a bit anticlimactic. I really think they should have ended the episode earlier. But it still doesn't ruin the episode for me. I still think this episode is genius.
Yeah, that's the only note I put on the whole scene is that they chose the wrong line to end it on. They should have just ended it with, I went down to Alfie Flower's lot and got another load of lawnmower engines. And then they could have just let that end.
Yeah, that in my opinion, that would have been a perfect ending. But let us know in the comments if you think the same or if you think it should have ended when it did, or maybe a different line you think it should have ended, or a different way it should have ended.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have for this fantastic episode in my top 5. So let's move on to our awards segment.
And guess what? He's only one.
Okay, let's do that. So as always, we have 3 awards to announce this week. We'll start with Plonker of the Week.
Don't be a plonker.
For Plonker of the Week, we each nominate a plonker and then discuss and decide who wins. So Heather, who is your Plonker of the Week?
Well, for me, I know Rodney acts a bit silly and naive in this episode, but I do think I understand why he's doing it. So I can't give it to Rodney. I am giving it to Mickey Pierce.
Yeah, I just forgot who I nominated. I looked and I've nominated Rodney, but actually, I'll nominate Rodney. I actually think I want to choose Mickey Pierce. Yeah, Rodney's just like, you know, finding his feet in life, and he does some stupid things, but he tries to double bluff with Del. He's not stupid or anything. The only thing he probably did that was stupid, which was rush off and buy more lawnmower engines. That is pretty stupid, but
that's pretty stupid. But at the same time, from his perspective,
he just found out that he thought that they were worth a ton of money and that the guy can't get enough of them engines. So like I would say he's not really the plonker. Let's give it to Mickey Pierce.
Yeah, Mickey Pierce is a terrible business partner and a terrible friend. That's what I wrote.
Yeah.
And Rodney didn't stand a chance with him as his business partner. That's what I said.
Okay, Mickey Pierce, plonker of the week.
It's good here, isn't it?
So this week, Heather will award the best line of the episode, and I will award the best moment of the episode. So, dude, what have you chosen?
I don't even
for your
have to think
extremely
about
obvious best line? This is kind of like when I got the best moment in the Chandelier episode. So,
yes, exactly.
What's your best line of the episode, dude?
Obviously, it's, well, you got a windy ass.
Yeah, that's an infamous best line, so it's kind of, it goes without saying.
Yeah, brilliant line. And what about the best moment?
Yeah, so I thought a little bit about it, but I do think the best moment of the episode is when Del is in the back of the van and he opens the suitcase and all the dogs fall out when the van pulls away. I think that's probably the best. It's at least the most comedy slapstick moment. There's lots of great emotional moments, but yeah, I'm just going to give it to that. Yeah, the montage overall, but that little clip is
the chase sequence is very good. Yeah, it's a really strong start to the episode. It really hooks you in, and it sets up everything that happens in the episode. I agree with you. I think that is a great moment in the episode, the entire chase sequence, but especially the dogs falling out.
Honorable mentions is the cut to the lawnmower engines from the auction scene, and that would
yeah.
I also love the way they follow that up with, have you bought this, son? Yeah.
Just really innocent, like,
Rodney's little afterwards is really funny.
Yeah, a great episode. I really enjoyed reviewing this one.
Okay, drink up, we're leaving.
So that about wraps it up for this week. Please consider giving us a like or a follow. We love to read your comments and emails, so hang on until the very end for our contact info. Join us next week when we'll be discussing Series 3, Episode 3, Friday the 14th. One of Jenny's favourites, I think. And until then... Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, you can email us at longlivehooky street podcast@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces. Bonjour.